Hey, this is Mike Lindsay from Vital MX here with Steven Tarkowski. We are out at Glen Helen Raceway today testing out the 2025 Yamaha YZ250F versus the Honda CRF250R Works Edition. Now, we already did our 250 Shootout a few months ago. The Yamaha was the winner, but even before the Shootout, I was contemplating putting the Works Edition 250 Honda in the test because I had ridden it personally, and I was very excited after I rode it. I was having a hard time though because it's not a standard bike. It's technically a limited edition bike. There's maybe about 400 to 500 at most of these Works Edition Hondas in the country being sold this year. The Yamaha's probably 5 times that or something along those lines. And also, that's gonna stay at its MSRP pretty much no matter what. Any of the other bikes in the test that we talk about end up with rebates eventually, things of that nature. So, very different class of bike. However, that Works Edition is not that much more money than some of the competition. It is $1,700 more than the Yamaha we have here, but it's only $200 more than the KTM 250 SXF. So we're circling back. We're basically putting the Works Edition against the winner of the Shootout, and we're gonna try to answer a simple question. Would it have won the Shootout? Is it better than the YZ250F? Again, ignoring the price, knowing that the Works Edition is basically as much as some of the competition from that Shootout. So, first impression, off the rip, what do you think of the Works Edition for being the $1,700 more, Stevie? Do you feel it compared to the standard bike?
Yes, I feel it a lot, especially in the engine. It has much more recovery and pickup, and is more long pulling with a lot of more low end response and power feeling.
Yeah, I think compared to the standard Honda, what the interest in bringing it compared to Yamaha was some of the things that the standard Honda 250 lacked in Shootout. Overall, the initial pickup on the standard Honda is okay, but then it kind of has a flat spot and it just kind of doesn't pull through. This has a much livelier feel all the way through. It has a little bit stiffer suspension front and rear, has a little bit better balance. And honestly, the Honda 250F did pretty well in Shootout, but the Yamaha still dominated. And 250 class is dominated by engine. The Yamaha has a fantastic engine. It has pretty good chassis, pretty good suspension. It has a pretty decent rounded package. So the upgrades again on the Works Edition for the Honda, I thought were enough to bring them head to head. So starting off, what do I like about each? The Yamaha still has the same qualities I've always liked about it. The tuning app, the ability to adjust the power, the liveliness of the Yamaha. Yeah, it's getting a little bit long in the tooth. It's no longer the complete powerhouse it used to be, but even still here at Glen, the mid-range pull on it's really good. It was a little bit wetter today, a little bit deeper. We have the hills. It picks up great. I'm a little on the heavy side for the 250, and it gets me around just fine. Suspension is comfortable. It is one of the plushest feeling in the class. And then overall, the ergos, of course, have improved on the bike over the year. But what the Honda has going for it, talking about ergos first off, is the Honda is probably the most natural feeling bike in the class. I haven't ridden in almost a month. I hopped on the Honda today as my first bike of the two and felt fantastic. I've rode both these bikes separate a couple times. I did one day of comparison. You rode them a couple times back and forth on different days. Same thing, let's go pros first. Let's talk about the positive. What do you like about the Yamaha and what do you like about the Honda?
The Yamaha has great comfort overall. Suspension comfort is probably best in class. The rear shock has good hold up and also just goes through the stroke very well, has good progressive damping. And I also like mid-range power on the Yamaha. It's very exciting, but it does sign off very quickly for me. And then for the Honda, ergos are awesome. For me, the Honda has great front contact and traction feeling. It gives me much confidence to push into corners and coming down hills. I really like the chassis on the new Honda. It's probably one of the best chassis for me personally. It's very stable, but very nimble at the same time. It's a great combination they made of those two. And then this engine, for me, the 250F, I really like to rev it out and not have to shift as much, and I really enjoy this new engine character because it has really good low-end RPM response, then pulls very linear all the way through, and is still long pulling and smooth pulling up top through over rev.
Nice. I'll hit the cons a little bit. So the Yamaha, yes, the ergos are still not perfect on it. It's come a long ways, but it still does take. When I jump on something, it feels as natural as the Honda I get on or like a Cowie, for instance. Those two feel very natural to me. Again, the Yamaha, there's a little bit of an adjustment period. Cons. The Yamaha is still the most raspy, annoying thing I have ever ridden in my existence on the 250 side of things. Just straight up. The fork, I have a pro and a con for it. It's super comfortable, but the deep hills here, it does get into the mid-stroke and hit a little bit of a shelf feel. And I noticed myself I'll break through something heavy and I kind of have to like get out of the brakes or let the bike come back up and then settle before I corner. Like I said, that front contact isn't as consistent as I would like. I have to like let the bike settle down. I can't go straight from like an aggressive braking straight into the rut. I have to have like a moment for the bike to settle before I can keep going. And then power-wise, like I said, it just makes a lot of noise up top and it feels a little bound up. It's definitely more of a low to mid shift. The Honda cons I have is, like I said, the shock is really good on the Yamaha. The Honda shock is okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially, I know, so your GH, you have a lot of stuff, of course, where you're turning on hills. It just skips around a little bit. It doesn't stay just basically settled. It doesn't track as consistently. And then a couple places, if you really try to pump through like a really abrupt jump face, or you come down the hill and it G's out, the shock on the Honda kind of pops through, like, you know, pop out to the side a little bit or something. I will say I never really have it kick up. It's almost always like a side-to-side motion. Yes. Albeit the power is improved on the Works Edition, the low-end response and the top-end response is amazing. I still think the mid-range could be better on the Works Edition. And those are kind of like my sound cons. What for each one of you is like a con?
Easy con for the YZ. I know it's simple, but the seat.
Yeah.
Just going back to back on them, the seat is just very hard. You get set hard into the corner, especially here where you hit the edge of a corner, and you can really feel that seat base on the Yamaha. Another, like you said, the front fork for me does have some stop feeling mid-stroke, where I then, instead of going into the end stroke like the shock is, I get some head shake feeling, and it just makes me less confident through the corners. It has less front contact feeling. I feel like I can't make my corners as tight. There's a bunch of flat corners here today and some sweepers, where the YZ kind of is a little unstable and unpredictable versus the Honda. And then, yeah, the Honda, I could, like you said, use a little more mid RPM power just to make it more exciting compared to the Yamaha. And the hydro clutch for me it's a give and take, because I like how the character it makes the Honda feel low RPM, but I'm still a cable clutch guy just because I like the wider engagement feeling towards disengagement. It's just easier to control. But with that, like riding hard for a couple laps, you do get some free play in the Yamaha versus the hydro that you don't have to adjust at all.
Yeah. Now we'll break the bikes down into like kind of three main categories: engine, then like your chassis, and suspension. We'll finish out with like Ergo's couple of things, but let's just go what outperforms each. The Honda, now this is a little weird. Let's start with suspension. Fork-wise, I think they each have their positive. I think the Honda overall, for a more of a racer, moto, aggressive guy, like I think the fork is better on the Honda.
Yes, I agree.
It's not as comfortable on light little chop, but it is so good. It's so consistent through the whole stroke. Like I said, one of the things is I enjoyed so much how hard I could push on it and immediately pivot into a corner, push into a jump face. I just felt more confident just putting weight into it. I didn't second guess myself very much for that. And still, for a Honda, I thought it had very generally good comfort across the range. So I think if I had to give a win, I'd say the Honda has the better fork of the two, albeit the Yamaha again has its plushness, its categories. Shock, I think we both agree, the Yamaha shock though is better than the Honda. It has better hold up, but it's also plusher. The Honda just overall, exact opposite. Where the Honda I can push really hard on the front, the rear I second guess a little bit more how I pressure it. The Yamaha I push off the back a little bit.
Yeah, I feel less of the bumps on the Yamaha. Yeah. And I feel a little more slower moving and a more calm character with the rear end.
Now I'll hit you engine. Which engine wins for you, but what do they each, like where do they each outperform each other, but which engine overall?
For me, the Honda engine wins because it's very similar, low RPM. It probably has the same response, maybe almost better. Maybe power is almost a little down versus the Yamaha. And then mid RPM, the Yamaha is a little stronger for me. But then where the Honda just outshines and is the easy winner for me is up top. Yeah. I can really pull and hold the gear longer, where I have to short shift the Yamaha just because the RPMs are increasing, and you feel like it sounds like it's going faster, but you're not going anywhere faster. You're not getting any more pull from the machine.
I agree. I would take the Honda overall, but it's definitely of category it's tight. It's like the Honda's, like I said, I like the Honda initially better. I like the Honda better up top. I like the Yamaha better in the mid, and I do think in a straight drag race, I think I can outperform side the Yamaha, even though, like you said, you have to short shift it. That mid torque is so good, that mid-range pull. But that's just purely going up a hill in a straight line or down a straightaway. The Honda, the power is so much more linear and usable in places. I definitely can connect sections together better with that power. So, like I said, I'm kind of 50-50 on where they outperform each other, but overall, the entire breadth of the track, the Honda engine outperforms for me. But if we're pure doing starts and hills, it's a Yamaha, so I'll give the Honda the nod on the engine.
I agree with you. I think it's more linear and it's slightly easier to control the RPMs overall, and just a little easier to ride overall.
Now, I'll throw it back to you again. Chassis, which is your winner?
The chassis for me is the Honda as well. It is a little more less moving and more stable and more nimble for me. So I can corner this thing on a dime. I can change from, if I'm sliding outside, I can cut in, and it's more predictable, more stable, and then it just feels like a little less a little less feeling in my hands and feet through like the downhills and through the bumps. The chassis just feels a little more stable and a little more confident, inspiring.
Yeah. I'm at a tight draw of positives for each. I love the Yamaha on like flat corners that have a lot of just little chatter and you're turning across. I feel like it does, even though we complain about front end fork connection, like I feel like the Yamaha follows the ground really well. The Honda, I skip a little bit here and there, and I feel like it doesn't absorb everything, but in the bigger load areas, big load, the Honda chassis is better. Now, the interesting one to me is, like, I'm talking all this about how good this Works Edition is. Well, why didn't I say this about the standard bike? I always say it's interesting how much power changes everything in the bike.
Yes, especially in the 250F class.
Like, the Honda's always had a very playful feel, but the standard bike having that real flat feel and not a very connected feel in the engine compared to Works Edition, talking on the Honda. When you get that extra pickup, that response, it makes the bike feel like you come on and you're like, in out corners, which that's where I've always said the Yamaha's done really well in shootouts because it has pickup. Now the Honda matches it, but with, like I said, with the little better ergos, I feel like I'm in better control when I hop in and out of stuff. And that's when you'd be on the standard bike and you'd see something and blip it and it wouldn't come to life. Yeah. The Works Edition does that. So I'm at a kind of a tie on chassis. They each have their positives. But they each have a little bit of drawback for each their own reason. Yep. And then let's say I'll count it down 3, 2, 1. If we're going back to shootout, this is in it. Which one of them wins? 3, 2. The Honda.
Yep. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, especially even small things like the exhaust noise. I spent a lot of time on the Yamahas, and I've heard a lot of people at shootouts tell me this thing, I need to wear earplugs. Yeah. And then after not riding it for a month or two and then hopping back on it versus the Honda, I'm like, wow, this thing really is loud and somewhat annoying versus the Honda. The Honda has a very crisp sounding bike. It sounds meaty, more throaty.
Especially the Works Edition. It just sounds, again, part of it's like the pickup and how quickly it gets into the right tone and power and everything. The Honda, there's a few places I catch myself, I'm like, I'm riding and I'm literally going, this sounds so good right now. I sound like I'm shredding. Yeah.
Well, you were shredding today. You
thank God. No, not as much as you, sadly. This guy almost drug a fucking foot off the damn, the hip jump, just sending it. Now, to be fair, I give you $1,700 to upgrade the YZ250F. How close, where do you think you would improve the Yamaha if you had the $1,700?
I think I would improve it with the ECU, put a Vortex on it so that it has some more high RPM power and doesn't be as flat up top. And then especially maybe an exhaust. And I think right there you're at 1,700 probably.
Pretty much.
So yeah, it's tough. It's tough because 1,700 goes quicker than you think when you're trying to get some engine power.
I'd probably throw, because the ECU is going to be $900, $1,000. I'd throw that. I agree with you on the ECU. I think it makes a bigger difference. The Yamaha pipe, even though it's loud, I've tried a lot of aftermarket pipes. It's a very hard pipe to beat. I'd throw the money at the ECU, and I'd throw the $700, $800 I have remaining at the suspension to balance it out.
That's a good point,
Then I think they'd be I think we'd be fairly close. Because again, with this Works Edition, I think a lot of it, even though, the Yoshi's cool, I think a lot of it's the ECU mapping they did is really good on this.
You can't beat the look of a Honda though.
And the bling parts. And the bling parts are nice. So again, we're throwing $1,700, but the Honda has the code suspension, the base. Now, is that the Works Edition Honda? there's a very low chance that bike's gonna have a rebate on it. There's a decent chance around this time of year you're gonna start to see, like on the Yamaha and the Kaways, like we usually do, and even maybe the KTMs now with their situation, like rebates. Okay, give me another $1,000 against the Yamaha, then we're getting into the territory, like if you could get a good deal on the Yamaha, I've ridden one with a dual injector kit. Now give me the dual injector kit, the ECU, and tune the suspension a little bit, and yes, the Yamaha would be better. But now we're talking about $2,500 or more. And funny is, you wouldn't notice from the outside. I'm still talking about a dual injector kit you won't see.
That's a good point.
Throw some fork sticker on, we're still talking about stock exhaust. So to be fair, yes, the $1,700 on the Honda could apply well to the Yamaha, but it's still sick that that's out of the box. So again, that's the other reason I have to say, like, that's, yeah, I would ride the Works Edition pretty happy all year, not really F with it when Yamaha throws
a couple other little things like the Renthal Kevlar grips are way better than the stock grips. The bar pad, I hit my chest once on the YZ and it's like hitting a rock.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another, the Renthal fat bar pad is much more better for just impact feeling.
Yeah. And then the other one I will say, code suspension, I think the Works Edition holds its value a little more when you sell it. Like again, depending on market value right now, a bike, if you buy a bike when it's rebated, that's always good because you're gonna be as close to your used value as you get to later. But if you bought one of the bikes when it's brand new, but it's a standard model, you're gonna see a bigger gap after a year. So that's about it. It's fun to do the little one-on-ones.
Yes,
if you guys want to see us do any more one-on-one evaluations, you got any more you want to see, throw it in the comment section below. That's kind of what I want to do the next couple months, is a lot of those. And if you had the $1,700 difference, what would you do to Yamaha? That's another question for the comments. And last one, do you think we are justified in saying the Works Edition is a better buy? Again, I want to hear the standard consumer's answer. But as always, thanks for watching our content. Give us a like and subscribe if you like this content, and check out more on VitalMX.com.